Time for a new little video tutorial here. This time it will be a bit about workflow and less about post-processing. I'll show you my typical workflow I use when I create Twilight-Star scenes. The photo you see here was shot in New South Wales, Australia, at a place called Fingal Head. And I took this photo before sunrise, and if you look closely, you see that there are still lots of stars in the sky. We have a lighthouse, which is still lit. And on the other side, we have the glow of dawn. And to get all this in an image, and also to get all the details of the rocks, which are pretty dark, and have it all without noise, I used a technique which is sometimes called time blending, where I took some photos for the sky very early, then left the camera in place and took several other photos for foreground and for the lighthouse. So let's have a look at the images. What you see here is the image I took for the stars, and the time I shot it, well, it says 7:43, which is because I have my camera still set to German time, to German summertime, but it was actually 4:43 in the morning. And I usually plan those shoots with some sites like time and date, or I could also use photographers ephemeris. And on those sites you have a set of information, for example, sunrise, sunset times. So for that day, sunrise was at 5:41. And then there are some other information which are important. It's the astronomical twilight, the nautical twilight, the civil twilight. And when I shoot such twilight scenes where I want the stars, I usually aim to photograph the star scene at the transition between astronomical and nautical twilight. Civil twilight is then the time when I shoot the pre-dawn glow, which you saw in the image. So usually during astronomical twilight, you still have lots of stars in the scene, and the later it gets in the morning, the less stars are visible. And yeah, I'm trying to shoot at the transition because I find the amount of stars that shows in the image it's not too much, but it's still enough, and I can get a convincing blend with a dawn shot. It wouldn't work out if I would combine a shot which I took at the beginning of astronomical twilight or even earlier, where I have thousands of stars in the sky, and blended this with a dawn image. This wouldn't look natural. So while it's still kind of a serial image I create here, it shouldn't feel too unnatural. So this is why I usually shoot around end of astronomical twilight for the stars, and then the middle of civil twilight for dawn. You see here between the first photo and the last one of that morning, I have nearly 45 minutes of time. And this is the workflow. So I set up my camera in the dark. I use a headlamp to light up the composition a bit and see if everything's right. So I usually do some test shots prior to this first shot here. Then I try to get a photo where the stars are showing. So normally at 20 seconds or less, to avoid trailing stars. And yeah, then I wait a bit. For example, I took several photos for the stars here, and I showed you in the last tutorial how I can use those multiple photos to create some noise averaging for the sky, and by this reduce the noise while preserving the stars. And what I also did, I did a very long exposure here, which I used later for just the lighthouse and the area around it. So this was at ISO 100. It was 664 seconds. And it takes a little long to load here because I'm capturing. So I was then using this area here just for the lighthouse and the trees which were lit up here. And then I waited again and finally took several photos for the foreground. So I started with a stack for the foreground here, then the middle ground, the background. And I think I went, let's see, with this one, the final photo of the morning. This is where the glow in the final image is coming from. So let's have another look here, so you get an idea how I pieced everything together. So I had the several photos for the sky, which I shot at the beginning of nautical twilight. I did noise averaging. Then I waited, took a long exposure to get a clean lighthouse without any noise. Then I waited again and took several exposures from foreground over middle ground to background, which I used as the focus stack. And I did a final exposure for the sky and the glow in that area. So I hope you liked this little behind the scenes of this photo. If you're interested in how to actually process it, I have a tutorial section on my homepage, and there you'll find several longer tutorials, for example the post-processing recipes, which also includes a tutorial on how I piece together such Twilight-Star scenes, or my complete workflow for post-processing landscape photos, which is like 3 hours, where I show everything from raw developing of the photos to the final print sharpening. Also, if you like the video, please leave it a thumbs up, or also comment if you have suggestions for further videos. What are you interested in? What kind of processing? Just leave a comment and I'll see if I can do a little post-processing video about it in the future.